'Tis the season to shine with H&M. Discover the holiday collection and find fashionable pieces for your wardrobe or for under the tree. Get inspired and dazzle with this year's glam. From tuxedo styles, bow detailed pieces, impressive prints, and more. From unforgettable looks to unforgettable gifts. With fashion finds to home decor, find it all at H&M. Treat your loved ones and yourself this season. Shop in-store or at hm.com.
LinkedIn presents.
Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development, where we share original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. We hope you join us often for practitioner-oriented content around all things related to leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with Human Capital Innovations Podcast. Do you enjoy the Human Capital Innovations Podcast? Enjoy ad-free listening by going to the Patreon page, and please consider contributing even at the producer or sponsorship level. And please leave a review. Thank you for your support. Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. In this HCI podcast episode, I talk with Vishal Kumar about the impact of technology on the workers of today. Vishal Kumar, welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from Boston. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about the impact of technology on the workers of today. And this is always an interesting topic to me, but I think especially right now with the AI wars and everything that's going around in that front, it's particularly important and timely. So we're going to be exploring all of this together today. And I'm super excited to pick your brain and learn more from your insights. As we get started, I wanted to share Vishal's bio with everybody. Vishal Kumar is one of the leading thinkers in the field of the future of work in the age of technology and machine learning. He has been an outspoken advocate for the role of society and government in building and flourishing future for everyday workers. Vishal, through his startup Tau AI, has built the world's largest career platform that ensures no worker left behind. Through technology, Tau AI is introducing ways to ensure workers of today could be transformed for their jobs of tomorrow in humane ways. He has been inducted into Big Data Hall of Fame and covered by various media outlets as a leading data-driven thinker. Again, a pleasure to have you. Anything else you would like to share with me or my audience by way of your background or personal context before we dive on in?
No, I think, thank you, John. I couldn't have been said any better. So yeah, love to.
Well, why don't we start with you just explaining a little bit more about Tau AI? There's so many different companies out there utilizing machine learning and AI technologies. And of course, we know about the AI wars, Google Bard and Chat GPT-4 and the Bing chat and everything that's going on. That's really been transforming the way people have been thinking about technology and the future of work over the last several months. But tell us a little bit more about how you fit into that landscape at Tau AI. Then we can start to dig in more generally to the impact of technology on workers of today.
Interesting. So thank you for having me on the show, and thank you for what all you are doing for the community. I do appreciate you on this. So Tau has its root engraved in how a technology would help workers stay employed. So in my past life, I used to be a data scientist and did some fancy project with companies on big data and the use of data in building the technologies and the organizations of future. And in one of the conversations, I was asked by one of the government officials from Sydney. So she said, Vishal, you know what? People pay taxes and machine don't. And if people don't pay taxes, government will go bankrupt, and we are going bankrupt. So I said, what does it even mean? So she said, Vishal, you know what? we are, as a governments, we are failing to keeping our citizens and folks gainfully employed as technology is transitioning through. How can we solve that? So Tao was created on this very small mission of how would a technologist, if a bunch of technologists think about technology which are human-centric, which ensures that Vishal is happy and gainfully employed, would work. So we are in a way working with ChatGPT against ChatGPT in a weird way to make sure Vishal's interests are secure as technology is transitioning through.
Super interesting. And one of the critiques of AI and deep machine learning has been, what does that mean for displaced workers, displaced tasks, displaced jobs? Now, I've always been one, that I'm a believer that as new technologies advance, they do displace people, but usually they create new opportunities, new jobs, new professions, and it automates the things that may be less interesting about one's job anyways. And so really in the long run, it's a net gain for individuals in their work design and the types of work that they do, so they can do more meaningful and purpose-driven stuff. It's also a win for society as a whole. That's my general philosophy around these types of disruptive technologies. But that's a persistent critique and concern that people have. Like, what is this going to mean for workers who all of a sudden, a huge chunk of their job, or perhaps their whole job, can be done by these AI or deep machine learning or even advanced robotics types of technologies. So what you're doing at Tao AI, I think, is an important piece of that. Like, we need to acknowledge that, yes, while I think overall it's a net positive for society as a whole, as we embrace these technologies and embrace them in careful and meaningful ways, but we also need to reskill and upskill the workforce. We need to make sure that people aren't left behind, that people can get the training they need so that they're ready for the next iteration of their career. And that sounds like it's exactly what you're trying to do there.
Yeah. And I think so. There are two interesting patterns that we are seeing when we talk about the impact of technology on worker of today, right? So earlier, there used to be like a one disruption, right? So either the hard drives are being disrupted to contain more data, or either the cloud is getting disrupted and now we don't have to carry drives all with us. We can move stuff around. This time, all the technologies are colliding with each other and creating its own disruptions, right? So earlier, we used to prepare workforce. We get some headwind. Okay, there's this pattern. Just everyone just learn .com. You will survive. There's a 5-6 hours shelf life. Everyone is happy. Like few had this struggle, but majority of the workers pass through, and many of these interesting use cases will emerge. But in today's time, all the technologies are going through their own S-curve disruptions, right? So now AI is intermingling with search, is intermingling with sensors, is intermingling with autonomy. So all of these technology, when they are colliding with each other, the workers are sort of displaced in that analogy in many of these disruptions, which could mean like a bigger concern that workers. So one of the best way to handle this is if we look back, because many of these things in some way, form or the other have occurred in the past, right?
Yep.
So when the cars came along, there was a huge outcry on people saying that the first model of cars were using more lumber. So people were worried that all the houses lumber will be gone in making cars. And now, like a palladium has a $1 billion industry, which is just a catalyst in the exhaust of a car. Similarly, we have something similar in which, say, when the calculator came, all the accountant just struggled saying, no, our hand-based calculations are better than what this machine can produce, right? And then this two side of dialogue emerged. In all of these scenarios, what helped is better connected people, right? So if I and John if we both are talking, there's a strong likelihood we'll come up with some weird ideas that one of us can think of, and we can do something about it. And people have been holding on to this idea of connectivity and learning through connections when the disruption happens, because it's way too much for anyone to master, because it's quickly changing, new standards are emerging, no clear path in line. Every day we hear a new news about it, how AI, either Elon Musk is saying don't do it, someone else is saying do it, everyone is jumping on it. So it's a lot of chaos is happening. So you cannot win this chaos by mastering this chaos. What you can do is connect better. So all the use cases that are emerging with it, you'll get to it sooner than later. I think that's where our technology is primarily based out, to ensure that Vishal is never alone in his pursuit to find the next thing.
And I think what you just highlighted is really apt and important to drill down on for a moment, and that is, every stage of technological advancement. People talk about how we're in the fourth wave of the Industrial Revolution. Every time we've had these major disruptions, we have seen these same patterns emerge. And every time there's some new technology, it has changed the way we work. It has changed the types of skills and tasks that people do, the skills necessary to perform those tasks, etc. So while AI and deep machine learning is on the newer cutting edge of these emerging technologies, and they are going to disrupt things, it's just another form of disruption. We've seen it many, many times. So if we look back at the history of the Industrial Revolution, we see these same patterns. So I think we don't need to be so fearful. I guess that's my general message around all of this, is we don't need to be so fearful about this, but we do have to be careful because anytime we have these new technologies, it is possible, to exploit people in ways that we hadn't previously thought about. And certainly there are abuses that have to be accounted for. And so that's my next question, really. How can technologists be on the right side of history with this? On the one hand, you have people that are concerned about like the rise of the machines, AI becoming sentient, and it's like a Terminator kind of scenario where they ultimately take over. So there's those types of kind of extreme concerns. But even if you pull back from that, you don't go that far down that end of the spectrum, there are plenty of people that are worried about doing this in a moral and ethical way. As in 50 years, we look back at today, what do we need to be doing now so that in 50 years we can look back and say, hey, we weren't perfect, but we navigated that pretty well, and we're on the right side of history.
No, I think, and that's a very important point, and thank you for picking on that, because so I was having this conversation with one of the senior labor official for one of the large European country. And he was talking to me about, Vishal, you technologies are partly to be blamed on what's happening, right? And where you are running towards, because you have been improving on technologies, but you have kept the workers out of your evolution of technology. And now maybe you have to turn back and now bring people with it as technology is progressing. So that means, for someone, if you're a technologist, being on the right side of the history, I think with the AI, technology can take care of itself, right? They know how to secure their interests. They are being told how to train to make sure that they continuously improve and perform and increase its performance. On the other side, now we have to build technologies which are more people-centric, which ensures that people's interests are still kept. No one is displaced. So I think one of the things that we saw before this wave of AI, there was an outburst on content. Everyone is throwing content at people. Hey, Vishal, you want to learn Python? There are 1,700 courses you can take on Python. As Vishal is just one alone guy, and the time is still linear. Last time I checked. So when you have limited time and you have so many courses, I'm scared and overwhelmed. Many of the people we talk to, they get so paranoid because they don't know where to start. So one of the consistent struggle that we saw when we polled communities that we are serving was, I have already wasted so much time learning random things that is not materializing to a good job, a gainful job, right? So, and when we ask them, hey, have you spoken with someone for 10 seconds before you ventured into learning, say, data or whatever, next shiny thing? And many of these guys say, yeah, we discussed, but the connectivity is not proper. Like we have not, many of them said they're flying solo. And technology is when very good at connecting data and connecting assets together. Connecting people is not hard. So right now, if we look at all the social networks that's available to us, almost everything is available. Everything is focusing on content. How can we give Vishal a lot more content that he can ingest so that they keep making money out of that use cases? But for an enterprise, for corporations, they are stuck with subscribing to these tools. But now, as a technologist, we need to build tools which are connecting people better, which are actually more people centric, understanding their pain, their ironies, and using technologies to solve that. And I think now in our conversation, we are already seeing a lot of startups emerging who are now taking that seat of actually being ethical on the side of history when it comes to worker. And I think the more and more we pay our debt to society as a technologist, the faster we can create a more happier society together. Otherwise, we'll create a lot more damage than we ever saw coming.
Well, what do you see as you referred to this a little bit ago, but what do you see as the role of government in all of this? So it would be wonderful if within the free market structure, if organizations would all proactively, look to self monitor and self correct and make sure that they're paying attention to these moral and ethical issues related to these technologies. But we know there are bad actors. We know that, in many cases, the negative externalities of the market are going to have a big impact unless they can be measured by some sort of government intervention. So what do you see as the role of government in ensuring an equitable and profitable future as we move into this new age of the future of work that's heavily enhanced through the use of technological tools? And perhaps, we do have displaced workers. Perhaps we do have people that, may have jobs, but may not be working, a traditional full-time job anymore, or whatever the case may be.
So government has a very strong role to play in this. As you're rightly saying, I think all the key point that you pretty much mentioned, that government's role is to make sure that the society's interests are secure through this, right? Government is not serving AIs or organizations' interests. Government is run by taxpayers, and taxpayers government needs to make sure that they own up to them. And other thing, and we have a great beef to pick with federal government here in US. They are one of the least investor when it comes to re-education programs to train workers, right? So many time workers. So if suppose you're a white collar worker, you are good, you are covered, you have friends who are at right places, you have networks at the right places. But if you're a blue collar community or a lightish blue collar, lightish white collar communities, you are heavily impacted because government programs, everyone is invested in, again, training you more content, which is anyways available in all these platforms. Connect. And I think we have seen government's role during Great Depression. Right? That's one of the hallmark where governments came together and created this hubs in which organizations and people meet, and they give them subsidies to connect them together, and then give excuses so that the employment engine starts kicking in, revving up. And we have not had any major innovation in government programs to ensure worker through this new age of technology disrupted ways. Because right now their answer is, we shall take more courses, right? And which is not more often the right approach. It's creating more relationships with companies, creating good mentorship program, apprenticeship programs, through which Vishal is not alone. And that's where I think government, and to certain degrees, I think we spoke with someone from UAE. They are slightly ahead in this. They are making their AI program available to everyone. They have sort of these connectivity programs in which you can go and learn from each other. Singapore government is slightly ahead, doing better at this. Federal, I think, where we are leading the world in technologies, we should do something. We have this great advantage from technology point of view. We can actually take a front row seat, and that's why I think government should play a very critical role in ensuring majority of these blue collar and white blue collar communities can have some source of connectivity that can help them understand this transition and bring them up to speed.
Yeah. And I like the focus on connectivity because you're right. When we talk about displaced workers, new emerging technologies, so often we do focus primarily on the reskilling and upskilling of the labor force for future jobs, which is important. But that connectivity piece is equally as important so that we make sure that people do have these networks so organizations can get the talent that they need. They can get people to fill the roles that they need, and individuals have connection to those organizations. One of the things that I see from a people management perspective is more and more, the disruption of the traditional career path, where you kind of go into a lane and you stay in that lane. People are moving all over the place, but it can be tricky because most organizations are set up with kind of that old model in mind, and it can be hard for people to jump from lane to lane. It can be hard for them to move between different types of roles, and organizations have to. This is part of the connectivity piece that you're talking about. They need to, over time, we need to create organizations with more latticed and matrix structures where people can flow in and out of different opportunities, and that I don't have to have 10 years of experience in XYZ area in order for me to be seen as someone who's capable to contribute in that area for my organization, because now we're drilling down on actual competency sets and capabilities rather than arbitrary years of experience or even long lists of technical skills that we say are vital for this job. So if we can get into that approach coupled with the connectivity piece that you're talking about, and then reinforce it with the reskilling and upskilling piece, I think that's the best possible scenario for organizations and for workers moving into this unknown future.
I think that's spot on. So, and couldn't have been said any better. So we were talking to, it reminds me of this conversation I had this one of the, I think it's Chief Guru at one of the large telecom provider. And I was discussing with him, hey, and his job is to think about future, how the future is heading and what to do about this. And we're talking about it. And he put it very beautifully. So he said, Vishal, you know what? Future does not need better chefs. It would need better soupreneurs and sandwichpreneurs. So I said, that makes sense. And his point of view was, if you need to build technologies, you need to make sure sandwichpreneurs and soupreneurs are moving the kitchen forward, right? That's a very interesting way to look at it, that even at their level, they're seeing there's a massive shift happening from full-time, as you're rightly pointing to, this part-time and freelancing and all these communities. That means the connectivity now, it's all the more important. That now Vishal probably will be spending time making sandwiches rather than pretending to be chefs and amazing sandwich and then bad at everything else. Probably I'll end up spending less time making sandwich and probably make more money that way. So it balances that piece out, and I'll be living a happier life there. So spot on.
Yeah. Well, Vishal, this has just been a really fun conversation. We could go on and on, but I note the time and I need to let you go here in just a minute. Before we wrap things up for today, I wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team, and then give us the final word on the topic for today.
Thank you. So you can find me at Vishal at tao.ai. That's tao.ai. And my company is tao.ai. Check us out and let us know how we produce a ton of content, how to improve workers, how to improve working situation, how workers can transform this new and emerging world. So if you're a worker in this economy, I think one of our primal advice is never be alone. Talk to people. It's very important. It will do more wonder than you ever imagine. Don't shy that, okay, this will happen and that will happen and you'll not be able to connect. That's number one point. If you're an organization, right, create those organic connectivities, because our brain is still the most powerful creative computing power that any organization is paying for. We are the biggest expense in any organizations. Why don't we make use of it, right? So creating those connectivities forward. And if you're a government official, have those sparks, create those sparks for the communities, because communities need to engage as sort of this, because we don't have to be stopping technology, because that's not going to work. We have to prepare ourselves to be with it as we're going through it.
Yeah, well said, Vishal. It has been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Vishal and his team can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe. They can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Do you enjoy the Human Capital Innovations podcast? Enjoy ad-free listening by going to the Patreon page. And please consider contributing even at the producer or sponsorship level. And please leave a review. Thank you for your support. Thanks again for joining us for this episode of the Human Capital Innovations podcast. I hope you stay healthy and safe and that you have a great week.